Picture this, a world where nothing ever touches the ground, because there is no ground. You're suspended in open water, hundreds of meters deep. Above you, a fading glow. Below you, nothing but darkness stretching for kilometers. No rocks, no reefs, no walls, just space. I thought I understood the ocean. The surface made sense. Waves, currents, sunlight, even the deep ocean felt logical in a strange way. At least there's a bottom, a place where things settle. But this is in between, and nothing here should exist. No plants, no sunlight strong enough to grow anything, no structure to hide behind. And yet, it's full, not just alive, crowded. Shapes move through the water that don't look real. A fish flickers like a broken signal, then disappears. Something long, too long, drifts past, stretching out of view like a living cable. And then you notice the eyes. Above you, below you, everywhere. Watching. This is the Midwater, the twilight zone, a global layer of ocean stretching roughly from 200 meters down to about a kilometer. It is the largest habitat on Earth, and we almost never talk about it. We've mapped continents, sent robots to Mars, built telescopes to see the edge of the universe, but here, we're still guessing. Because the deeper you go into this layer, the more it feels like you've left Earth entirely and entered something else. At first, nothing dramatic happens. The light doesn't vanish instantly, it fades, slowly. Colors begin to drain out of the world. Reds disappear first, then oranges, then yellows, until everything becomes blue. And then, even that starts to collapse into grey. By the time you pass around 200 meters, something fundamental changes. Photosynthesis ends. There are no plants here, no forests, no algae fields, no green life converting sunlight into energy, which creates a problem that should be impossible to solve. Because every ecosystem on Earth starts with energy from the sun, except this one. Down here, life runs on leftovers. Above you, the surface ocean is chaotic and productive. Plankton bloom in massive clouds. Fish feed, predators hunt, and everything they do produces debris, tiny particles of waste, fragments of dead organisms, invisible pieces of what used to be alive. They drift downward, constantly, a slow, endless snowfall, marine snow. To us, it would look like nothing. Down here, it is everything. Creatures wait for it, feed on it, depend on it. Entire lives built around catching fragments of what falls from above. But it's not enough, it can't be. So evolution did something unexpected. It made the ocean move. Every night, something massive happens, and you don't see it at first, you feel it. A subtle shift in the water around you. More movement, more shadows. Then suddenly, everything is rising. Fish, squid, jelly-like creatures, entire populations drifting upward toward the surface, billions of them, climbing through the water column under cover of darkness, because at the surface, there is food, plankton, energy, life. And down here, scarcity. So they go up, feed, and then, before sunrise, they disappear, sinking back down into the twilight, vanishing into deeper water, where predators can't easily see them. This happens every single day, across every ocean on Earth. It is the largest migration on the planet, and for most of human history, we didn't even know it existed. During World War II, sonar operators kept detecting something strange. A solid layer in the ocean, a floor that shouldn't have been there. At night, it rose. By morning, it sank again. At first, they thought it was a malfunction. It wasn't. It was life. A massive moving layer of organisms reflecting sound. An entire ecosystem shifting up and down like a heartbeat. And in a world like this, open, exposed, with nowhere to hide, survival becomes a visual problem. If you can be seen, you die. So many creatures take the most extreme approach possible, They remove themselves. Transparency becomes armor, bodies lose pigment, skin becomes glass-like, organs shrink or reposition to reduce shadows. Some animals are so clear you can see straight through them. They don't hide behind anything, they become nothing. Because in this place, the best way to survive is to disappear. But not everything hides. Some creatures choose something far more dangerous. They make themselves visible. They glow. At first, it looks almost peaceful. Tiny flashes in the dark, soft pulses of blue light, points of brightness drifting through the water like stars. But this isn't beauty. This is strategy. Because down here, light is power. Nearly everything that produces light does it for a reason, and every flash means something. Some use light to disappear. From below, predators scan upward, looking for silhouettes against the faint glow of the surface. Even in near darkness, that contrast is enough. So prey species evolved a counter. They produce light along their undersides, rows of tiny organs that glow just enough to match the light above, perfectly. They erase their shadow. From below, they are invisible. This is counter-illumination, camouflage, using light itself. It shouldn't work, but it does. Others use light as a trap. A small glow in the darkness is impossible to ignore. Curiosity draws prey closer, closer, and then it's over. Some fish extend glowing lures directly in front of their mouths. Others flash patterns to confuse or overwhelm. Some release clouds of light as a distraction, vanishing in the chaos. And then there are species that take it even further. They create light that almost nothing else can see. Specialized wavelengths, private channels. Imagine having a flashlight in a pitch-black room that only you can see. You can search, hunt, communicate, without revealing your position to anything else. That's what some midwater predators have evolved. A hidden spectrum, a secret layer of visibility inside an already invisible world. This is where things start to feel less like biology and more like technology. Because nothing here is accidental. Every glow is calculated. Every flash is intentional. Light down here isn't decoration, it's survival. The deeper I drift, the less these animals feel familiar. They don't look like fish. They don't even look like versions of life we understand. They look wrong, as if evolution stopped following rules. Take the hatchetfish. From the side, it looks normal enough. Small, metallic, compact. But rotate it slightly, and it disappears into a thin, blade-like shape. Its entire body is compressed, designed to minimize its silhouette from below. Its eyes don't face forward. They point upward, always, locked onto the faint glow of the surface, scanning for anything that breaks the pattern. It doesn't hunt in front of it. It hunts shadows above. Everything about it is built for a single direction, up. Then there's the viperfish, long, dark, motionless, and its teeth, too large. They don't fit inside its own mouth. They curve outward like spikes, so extreme that the fish can't even fully close its jaw. This shouldn't work, but it does. Because in a place where food is rare, missing a meal is not an option. If something drifts close enough to catch, you take it, no matter what. And then you encounter something that breaks an even deeper assumption, that an organism is one thing. Siphonophores. At first glance, they look like jellyfish, soft, transparent, drifting. But they're not. They're colonies. Hundreds, sometimes thousands of individual organisms linked together into a single chain. Each part has a role. Some capture food, some digest it, some reproduce, some provide movement. None of them can survive alone. Together, they function as one. Some stretch longer than the largest animals on Earth, floating chains of coordinated life, moving through the water like living structures. No central brain, no leader, just cooperation at a scale that feels impossible. This isn't one creature, it's many, acting as one. And in the midwater, that's enough. Here's the problem with this world. There is nowhere to hide. No terrain, no obstacles, no cover. Just open water in every direction. So how do you hunt? In nothing. You don't chase, you wait. Because chasing prey in a three-dimensional, empty environment costs energy, and energy is rare. So most predators do something that feels almost counterintuitive. They stop. They hang motionless in the water, suspended between depths, waiting. Some extend long, nearly invisible tentacles, turning themselves into drifting traps. Others rely on lures, small points of light that attract curiosity. Some simply drift and react, because eventually, something will pass close enough.
And when it does,
you strike. Fast, precise, and then stillness again. This is a world of patience, a world where movement is expensive, where survival isn't about speed, but timing. Because in the midwater, you don't control when food appears, you only control what happens when it does. At first, the midwater feels random, chaotic, unpredictable. Creatures drift in every direction. Light flashes without warning. Shapes appear and disappear in seconds. But the longer you stay, the more a pattern begins to emerge. Everything here is synchronized, not by communication, not by intelligence, but by something much larger, the cycle of light and darkness above. Every evening, as the sun begins to set far above the surface, the entire system prepares. You don't hear it, you don't see a signal, but it happens. The water starts to fill. Small shapes appear first, then more, then thousands, then millions, and then suddenly, the entire ocean begins to rise. Lanternfish, among the most abundant vertebrates on Earth, lead the movement. Small, unremarkable fish at first glance, but in terms of sheer numbers, they may outweigh all humanity many times over. They move upward in waves, following plankton, following energy, following survival. Behind them come squid, jelly-like drifters, predators tracking the movement of prey. Layers of life stacked on top of each other, all moving in the same direction. Up. This is diel vertical migration, and it happens every single night, across the entire planet. Billions of organisms climbing hundreds of meters through the water column under the cover of darkness, feeding where life is abundant. Because at the surface, everything changes. There is light, there is food, there is opportunity. But there is also danger, so they wait until night. And then they move, fast enough to reach feeding zones, slow enough to conserve energy, precise enough to avoid becoming prey themselves. And just before dawn, everything reverses. The ocean empties. The same organisms that rose in darkness now descend, back into the twilight, back into safety, back into invisibility. This cycle repeats every day, unbroken, relentless, and for a long time, we had no idea it existed. When early sonar systems were deployed, operators detected something strange, a dense layer in the ocean that reflected sound like the seafloor. But it didn't behave like the seafloor. It moved. At night, it rose. During the day, it sank. At first, it confused scientists. Then it changed everything. Because this wasn't geology, it was biology. A living layer, a global phenomenon, a migration so massive that it reshapes the distribution of life in the ocean every 24 hours. And yet, you can't see it from above. You can't detect it without technology. It is happening right now, completely unnoticed. This is how the midwater survives, not through stability, but through motion. Energy flows downward from the surface, life rises to meet it, and everything is locked into this rhythm. Miss it, and you don't just fall behind, you disappear. The longer you remain in the midwater, the more something else begins to happen. You lose your sense of scale, because there is nothing here to measure against, no ground to judge distance, no surface to orient yourself, no fixed point. A creature could be centimeters away, or meters, or tens of meters, and you wouldn't know. Everything floats, everything drifts, Even the idea of up and down begins to blur. And in this kind of environment, evolution does something unusual. It stops relying on structure and starts relying on sensation. Many midwater animals are built less like solid bodies and more like sensors. Eyes grow larger, not to see clearly, but to detect faint changes in light. Some can detect movement so subtle it barely exists. A shift in brightness, a shadow passing through dim water, a flicker. Enough to trigger a response, because here, information is survival. Other senses evolve in ways that feel almost alien. Some animals detect pressure changes, minute disturbances in water movement, a nearby body displacing fluid just enough to be noticed. Others rely on bioluminescent communication, patterns of light that signal identity, intent, or warning. Entire conversations happening in flashes too fast or too faint for us to understand. And then there are creatures that barely rely on sight at all. Instead, they become passive, drifting with currents, letting the ocean bring information to them. Because in a place where energy is limited, perception must be efficient. Everything is tuned to detect just enough to survive. Life here is not easy. It is not abundant in the way surface ecosystems are. It is stretched, tight. Every calorie matters. Every movement has a cost. And so the bodies of midwater creatures reflect that reality. Many are soft, gelatinous, almost fragile, because building dense muscle or heavy structures requires energy, and energy is rare. So they reduce, simplify. Some lose skeletons entirely, others become mostly water, transparent, flexible, minimal, just enough structure to function, nothing extra. Even feeding strategies reflect this constraint. Many animals don't actively hunt, they wait, consume what drifts into reach, because chasing prey through open water is expensive, and failure costs more than hunger. So they minimize risk, minimize movement, minimize waste. Some species can survive long periods without feeding at all, slowing their metabolism, reducing activity, waiting for the next opportunity. Because in the midwater, you don't control abundance, you endure scarcity, and everything about you must reflect that. As you drift deeper, approaching the lower boundary of the midwater, something final happens. The last traces of sunlight disappear. Not dim, not fading. Gone. Above, there is still a faint glow. But here, there is nothing. This is the threshold of the midnight zone, and everything changes again. Creatures that live near this boundary are adapted to both worlds. They can rise into dim light and retreat into complete darkness. They exist on the edge, and this edge is where some of the most extreme adaptations appear. Ultra-black skin that absorbs almost all light. Bodies that reflect nothing, making them nearly invisible, even when illuminated. Eyes adapted to detect the faintest possible glow, or in some cases, reduced entirely. Because if there is no light to see, why waste energy on vision? Instead, other senses take over. Touch, pressure, chemical detection, a completely different way of experiencing the world. And yet, even here, life continues. Because the midwater is not a boundary, it is a transition, a bridge between two extremes. And everything that lives here exists in that tension. The more I try to understand the midwater, the more it feels like I'm looking at something that doesn't belong on Earth. Because nothing here behaves the way we expect. Creatures that glow to hide, bodies that disappear instead of defend, predators that hunt using light no one else can see, organisms that aren't even single organisms at all. This is not just another ocean layer. It is a system built on limits. No light, no structure, almost no energy. And yet, it works. Not just barely, but on a scale that dominates the planet. Because this might be the most important ecosystem we ignore. A hidden engine of the ocean, moving carbon, redistributing energy, connecting the surface to the deep, every single day. And if life can exist here, suspended in darkness, surviving on fragments, adapting to near invisibility, then maybe this isn't unique. Maybe oceans like this exist elsewhere, beneath frozen crusts, under alien skies, on worlds we haven't even reached yet. Not empty, but alive, waiting. And the strangest part is, we don't need to leave Earth to find something alien. It's already here, right beneath us, unseen, unexplored, and still almost completely unknown. If you made it this far, you're already part of a small group of people curious about the parts of our planet most people never think about. That curiosity is what drives videos like this. It takes time, research, and a lot of effort to turn these hidden worlds into something you can experience. So if you want to see more deep-sea explorations, more unknown ecosystems, and more stories that feel almost unreal but are completely real, consider supporting the channel. Subscribe, check out the next video, and stay curious.